see it on the big screen? Yeah. Unbelievable. I have so many questions. I have so much love and admiration for this film. This was your first feature.
Yeah.
And they say that you write what you know.
Yeah. What's the question? What's the question?
So is this something of close to your life, that some of these characters that you knew, are you any part in this?
Well, I am a part of all these characters, right? Like, so, I went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And, boys and so, the best man came out of certainly not seeing myself and the people that I went to school with on screen. There was very limited representations of Black Americans on the screen, and I felt like there's other stories to tell, and that I was trying to find my voice, certainly at Georgetown, certainly at NYU. And it was the sixth screenplay that I'd ever written, but it was like the one that I was like, okay, like it was very mercenary about what I was doing in terms of I wasn't just writing to just write characters or a story or whatever. I was very purposeful and trying to. Well, first of all, I love ensemble movies, so I love the characters, and I wanted to be a somewhat response to Waiting to Exhale in terms of like representation of 4 Black women. I wanted 4 Black men at the center, and I wanted to center it around a wedding because wedding movies were very profitable, and there hadn't been a Black wedding movie to date when I was writing it, and so it all had like the elements that a 3-act structure should have, in that, okay, it's only going to take place over a weekend. Your first act is, the set up, and then you get this magic prop, this book, this, the secrets that are, thinly veiled secrets that are in there. So, yes, lots of characters are me. I would say I most relate to Jordan, because especially early in my life, it was like, okay, like, no time for relationship, just find my job, right? And certainly, there's lots of Harper in me. There's, I knew a lot of, I knew some Lances, I knew some Graydons, I knew some Birches. Yeah, so, certainly it's a lot of, there's no one character that was based on a person. You know what I mean? But it's an amalgam of to say that Harper said. So no, that was born out of that.
All right, good. So that book wasn't like you didn't have that in college. All those people when they came in.
No, there was no. I didn't break up a wedding. My wedding was not broken up by secrets being unveiled.
So in 1999, and it's sort of when we actually started the Roxbury International Film Festival as well, and we did it because there wasn't any full representation of Black people on the screen. It was a lot of urban drama, and so we really wanted to make sure that we're not a monolith, and that we should be right. And so how important was that for you in 1999 to do that, to bring this forward, to have this representation?
It was extremely important. Again, I other than like movies like Love Jones and I think what was to a degree Soul Food, there was limited representation, and there was like this, there were things that people were eating up, like and I love Boys and Boys was a very big inspiration, yes, yeah, and so like but Boys and Hood does is like display humanity, and I wanted to really, and I don't think I had the words for it at the time, but I wanted to show Black people's humanity and the depth of especially when it became educated Black people, on screen, you know, they're all very like, and like they always check their ethnicity at the door, and like they you know, forgotten what it was like. Somehow, like when you get educated, you become less black. So, you know, that was my experience, and I thought, like, I think other people can relate to this as well. And so that's what, you know, that was kind of like my mission. I felt from the very beginning was to make the so-called African American movie mainstream.
And I think it's really important because everyone can see themselves. There's a character, there's just, not even just the primary characters, but just even the secondary characters and stuff. You've created a film where it's comfortable and you can say, I know that person, I know that person, which I think is really important. And the whole series, from Holiday to Final Chapters, it's the same thing, right? We've grown with these characters just like we've grown with people in our lives.
Yeah, you know, and certainly there wasn't a, you know, you referenced, you know, the sequel in the series. It wasn't really, when I was writing it and creating it and shooting it, and you know, even after I finished it, you know, in '99, I was like going to do a sequel, you know, at all. But because you know, no one wants to be a one-trick pony, you know, and you get very much pigeonholed in the industry if you just like, okay, like that's what they do. So you know, give us a little more, give me some more of that. It's a complicated industry, you know, but you know, I think that it was. They were relatable characters, and you know they were, you know, had hang-ups about love and relationships and fears and you know, all these kinds of things that I think, you know, you said the right word, you know, relatable, that everyday Americans face, you know. So again, it's about, you know, broadening the representation and the depth. And you know, there was a lot of talk back in the day, like, oh, we gotta put out more positive images. And I was like, I wasn't interested in so much in positive images. I was more interested in fuller images.
Right, exactly. And we weren't seeing a lot of that.
Right.
When you talk about relatable and you talk about that, you know, these characters, we see these characters. I'm really curious, and we had a question from one of the audience members because some people sent in questions. You know, it feels like they've known each other forever. And I'm just, you know, I think a lot of us are curious too. Did they just walk on the set like that? I mean, you have like the most beautiful black actors in Hollywood, and now probably some of the top now in 2023. Did they just come on and were like, hey, yeah, we're best friends?
You know, I think that what was great about The First Best Man was that they were all at the kind of like the same level of their career, and they, you know, they really didn't get an opportunity to play characters that were like this, you know, that had lives, that had, you know, some depth, that had some layers to them and complexity. They weren't offered roles like this, and certainly not all together. You know, like there would be like there was 8 roles that were, you know, fairly meaty roles that everyone could have an opportunity to really shine and to really have a moment or two on screen. And I think that was exciting for all of us, you know, to really embody, you know, what we were trying to do. And I think that it was exciting for all of them to, like, you know, get to work with people who were studying the craft of acting and had gone to you know, the industry to act and not to be a rapper or to be a singer or what have you, and then go and I'll do movies too. They were all actors, and they were excited that like they could be challenged in scenes, and you know there was intention and there was you know there was subtext and all these kind of things that, you know, they didn't really get to play if they were auditioning for, like, you know, horror number 5 or gangster number 2, you know, what have you. And so here, you know, so I think that was what, you know, and plus we had a good, you don't have this anymore, but, you know, we had 2 weeks of rehearsal, and that was really important for all of us to get to know one another. They would hang out, you know, at night together. They would, you know, really want improv scenes. You know, they would, you know, hang out together at lunch. Nobody would like go off to their trailers to like do whatever. Like they were just, you know, a group. And so yeah, that camaraderie comes forth, and that chemistry comes forth on the screen.
Yeah, completely comes forth. And I know that exactly around that time, it was like there was like one person in a movie or to,
Right.
you know, you didn't have this ensemble of black actors that could actually have shorthand. So when you're directing them, it was that sort of shorthand. I mean, there are things also in the movie like the jumping of the broom and the CP time and stuff like that some people might not be able to pick up. But it was like the language that you had and the way that you moved with them. You could tell as you directed them, it was like this ebb and flow, and it just felt so effortless.
Well, it wasn't effortless. That's for sure. But I will say, it was really, you know, a great first experience in working with them. You know, like, you know, again, it was all like kind of, not always. I was in the infancy of my career.
Right.
Many of them had done some stuff, but you know, you come to find out that people don't work consistently. You know, like it's like, okay, do you do this thing, and then it's like, oh well. Got to audition, and then, oh, maybe I'll land this thing, maybe I'll land this television show, this movie, whatever. So, you know, it was, they genuinely really loved one another, you know, and it began back then, and like, you know, again, there's a lot of, you know, them challenging one another, and competing. As Terrence Howard would put it, we all competing, you know, to be, you know, they have the screen time, but it was never like, oh, look at me, you know, it was like, let's all push one another to, you know, to be our best, and you know, they took direction very well. There wasn't a whole lot of like, oh, I think I should do this. You know, it was they just, you know, they loved the text, and they said okay, and I knew what I wanted. I think that's what a lot of actors appreciate, is you know what your vision is, and that, you know, you can execute it, and they can help you achieve that.
Right, I think you said it too, that the text, the writing was beautiful.
Yeah, that's something we heard, thank you very much. That's something we heard a lot, you know, when actors came in to audition. It was like, wow, you know, the dialogue was so smooth and so, like, you know, relatable, and, you know, it was something that they had not seen a ton of. So, like, that was, I mean, we had a lot of people, you know.
I was going to ask you, what actors that are big today auditioned for you in 1999 that didn't make it into their best?
Well, I will say this. It's going to sound a little bit strange right now, given the current context, but I did write this with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett in mind. Now,
gee, what characters were they?
They were Harper and Jordan, right? Because you know what actually helped in the writing process? Because here's the thing, I remember reading an article where Will was like, you know, was beginning to be a huge star, right? Like he had done Bad Boys, he had done, you know, Men in Black, but he said in an article, there's such a lack of roles out there for black actors that my wife and I can't even be in the same movie. And I was like, I'm gonna write this for them. And so, you know, it never got to them. So I had them in mind, like, you know, Regina King came in.
Okay, yep.
She didn't audition, but we had a meeting. Michael Jai White, Steve Harris from Practice. Who else was? There's a bunch of them. I'm thinking about Lisa Nicole Carson.
We'd love to see those tapes. All right, so getting back to it. So one of the things too in your movies is the music.
Mm-hmm.
The set list. Your dad is a jazz musician.
Yes.
You grew up with music in the household.
In fact, the last song that everyone's dancing to when Harper proposes was a song that my dad and my aunt wrote.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
called Wedding Bells. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Stanley Clarke did that's
Yeah.
pretty incredible. So how does that, how has that in your work, you know, throughout your life really impacted you?
It's interesting, you know, like I did not have an appreciation for jazz growing up, you know, because you know you're a kid, you listen to R&B, listen to hip hop, and you know the age that I am, and like you know my dad's like practicing, and I can hear it, you know, I'm trying to study, and he's like. And like, you know, I used to say how great Miles Davis and John Coltrane are. And so like, I didn't have appreciation of that music until I got to college, started to study, you know, study to it and things like that. And then the music has always been kind of like an integral part. I'm always like, you know, had a visual sense when I listened to music. of like, you know, what the lyrics are and how it makes me feel and whatnot. So like, you know, to marry music with an image was really, you know, a great treat for me. I didn't quite understand soundtracks versus score when I first started with Best Man. I thought, okay, like, you know, I was gonna have Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, you know, write all the songs for Best Man, and they were like, what about the score? I was like, I don't know, like, you know.
Isn't that the score?
Yeah, exactly. I thought the songs were the score, but then you start to realize, okay, you know, you need emotional cues, and you need, you know, tension cues, and you need all kinds of other things that just songs cannot provide. So I'm very into the music, and like, you know, now I'm like, you know, like I've done so many, you know, scores and sat in on sessions that I'm like, okay, you know what, we need some more strings here, or we need like, you know, and so I'm gonna start to sound like my dad when he starts like, you know, riffing and stuff like that when I'm talking about, you know, music languages. Like I don't have like, you know, I never played anything other than the radio, and like, you know, I can't articulate, you know, I need a C note or whatever. It's like, but this should sound like this, and it should feel like that, and da da da. So music is extremely important to me. And you know, we got unfortunately we're at the kind of the tail end of like great or expensive movies, black movie soundtracks. We had, you know, that soundtrack, you know, we had Faith Evans and Drew Hill and, you know, Lauryn Hill and it was just crazy. Like, you know, Tyrese, you know, it was a huge soundtrack.
And it's wonderful. I mean, I don't know, you know, people seeing it like for the 4th time, the 5th time, the 10th time. You know, that music just brings back so many memories of just being in that time period too.
Right. And like, you know, I think the record company made a big mistake by not including Stevie Wonder's As,
yes.
You know, D'Angelo's Shit Damn Motherfucker, and Candy's Cameo. I mean, it's like incredible that to this day, Candy comes on at a party, a wedding, a family reunion, people are doing the electric slide. That never happened. And by the way, the cast was like, well, we're gonna do the electric slide to Candy? I was like, yeah. Like, even like the sound people like bringing out the electric slide song. I'm like, no, we ain't doing that. There's no way to end the movie with that song. So, you know, it was always gonna be Candy, and you know, it's incredible how it's you know, kind of a cultural phenomenon.
Right, exactly, and it doesn't ever get old.
No.
So you know, you did Holiday, wonderful, and then you really, so now you've wrapped it up. So we're done. We're done.
Yes.
It's the final chapter.
These final chapters. I mean, yeah, I don't.
There's always epilogue. Or is that
Epilogues are after. I mean, I will say that I feel like, you know, I did not want to continue a story that I didn't feel like I had something else to tell. And at that, you know, that point, you know, when we were mounting it, I just felt like, okay, that's it.
And it was a great way to do it in a series.
Thank you.
It really was.
It made sense.
Yeah, it seems to have made sense. It seems to be just a natural. Don't you agree? Thank you all seen it together. But it just makes sense because it gave us like, you know, okay, we have a mark, so we can do one with it. You know, we can have that. So the Best Man series has been really good to you.
Yes.
You have a new deal with Universal. Which is really exciting. So can you talk a little bit about what I know you're doing Girls Trip.
We hope.
Oh, we hope. Yes, we need a sequel to that.
We hope. You know, it's all, listen, the thing with any, you know, sequel, particularly a comedy sequel, it just has to be, like, the expectation level is so high right now. I think, you know, the first Girls Trip, the expectation level wasn't, there was no anticipation, number one, of it. Then people started seeing the trailer and say, oh, that looks funny. And, you know, that's for me, and that's for us. And then I think we exceeded expectations with the first Girls Trip. And so now the bar is incredibly high. And so it's got to hit that bar, or else it's like, what'd you do that for? You know? So we want to do that. You know, we at Black Male Productions, doing things in film and television. We're adapting books. There's so many things I would love to tell you about, but nothing's been like announced officially. We have a number of things and a number of announcements that are going to come out. In fact, I'm going out to LA to pitch something that's I'm extremely excited about. It's a musical. And and there's a couple of books that we're adapting. Both, like romantic comedy, romantic drama, all kind of character building things. There's a couple of genre things that we're doing as well. So we're very excited. Again, more comedies as well. But like I said, I would love to be able to say, how many things all things that we're doing, but it's not.
We're just gonna have to wait for it.
Yeah, it's just stay
Malcolm
tuned.
TV's original programming. Yeah, exactly. Space Jam.
Yeah.
You said one of the coolest movies you've ever made.
It was,
Did you watch the original? Were you inspired by that? How many people here have seen Space Jam, the original? Yeah. And how many? Well, I'm not gonna ask that question. But
it's okay if they haven't seen it.
It's such a great film, and then to top it off with LeBron and all that stuff, and kids for kids. So why was it the coolest movie? I think this is pretty cool.
Well, no. Listen, Best Man is great. I think for me with Space Jam, I had not seen the original.
Okay.
I was when that movie came out. I was like 26 years old. I was just finishing film school. I was like trying to be Orson Welles or John Simmons or Spike.
Right.
I wasn't trying to watch a kids movie. I was like, no, thank you. And Jordan always abused the Knicks, so I wasn't going to be, riding.
We're all Celtics fans.
Yeah, I get it. But when the opportunity to do it, because I was also very much intimidated by doing big visual effects things.
Oh, right.
I knew nothing about animation. I loved and appreciated animation, but it was like I don't think it was necessarily in my wheelhouse. And so the opportunity came along, and studio executives and producers were seeing something in me that said, you should do this. And so, it made sense because to me at the time, the story was about, this father and son and how they were having, the difference of opinion. LeBron wanted his child to play basketball and the son wanted to make video games. And so, that father-son dynamic was something that was, relatable to me, and I felt like I could bring something to the table. And then you come to realize when you're working on a movie like that is that visual effects and animation are all just storytelling tools.
Yes.
And, it's like, I knew what I was doing, more than I did. Now, mind you, if I hadn't had 10 movies under my belt, 20 years of experience, I couldn't have done it. Because I had to step into that movie with a week of prep, which is insane. It was absolutely insane. But there's no way I could have done that if I didn't, know how to work with a crew and know, what I want. I remember I saw a movie I think Robert De Niro did that was, he was a director, and it was during the McCarthy era. There was a lot of witch hunting, whatever, and he had been blackballed, and then he got an opportunity to come in the middle of a movie and take over the set, and I was like, how could anybody do that? Then I found out.
Because you have to.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, you're a storyteller.
Yes.
And it really comes down to that story.
Yeah, and I love the tunes, and I love LeBron, I love basketball. So, it just fit. Everything just fit.
So I want to open it up to questions, and I'm sure the audience has many. Oh, look, they're already going up. But I do want to ask you, what is and you can't, I know this is hard because it's one film, but what is a film that really truly inspired you to want to say, I want to be a filmmaker and I want to make sure that the stories that we're telling are stories about people?
Well, I think those are probably different movies, right? Like, you know, I was very influenced by, you know, E.T. and the Star Wars trilogy and, you know, that thing, Grease. I mean, those were the things I thought I considered movies. My cousin started making movies and I was like, you're gonna make this for the theater? And he was like, oh, I said, oh, it's a different way to make it. Oh, there's different stories out here. He's gonna expand your mind. I saw Boys in the Hood and Summer of 1991, I was like, inspired. I was like, I can tell my story. I can write a story.
Yes.
You know, that is, you know, unique to me. So, you know, there were a number of things along the way. And I you know, and Spike always said, you know, like, how powerful film and television were, that you can't just, you know, be loose with it. You gotta be intentional and, you know, put images out there that are, these images are going around the world, and it's such a powerful medium that you have to be treated with care and kindness and whatnot, and craft. So, you know, that all made, you know, a ton of sense to me. And we come from a family that's, you know, resilient, you know, Black people and were artists, and, you know, about like, you know, Black nationalism and whatnot. So it was always about like putting us forward as in our authentic, true selves. So
Yeah.
Ever started a film and had every intention of it going one way, and then been so surprised that it came out entirely different after editing, either good or bad or indifferent, but just entirely different after after you started making it and editing and all that?
I wouldn't say entirely different. You know, like movies go through, you know, three stages, right? The script stage, you know, is one version. When you shoot a movie, you bring the actors, they bring their ideas, your director photographer brings their ideas, your costume designer, you know, there's all these crew members that are, then it's the editing stage where it's like, oh my God, and you're writing things, you're like, I need that scene to be in the movie, or otherwise no one's gonna understand what's happening, you know, the motivation of the character. And then it's like, you know what? You said it with one look, and it's like, now we can cut like 5 minutes out of the movie because, you know, and so like, things like that happen, you know what I mean? Like, I remember on Best Man Holiday, the actors were really like giving it their all, and I had to cut a few scenes that just, you know, were great scenes, but they weren't great for the movie. You know, same thing happened in the barbershop, you know, the next cut, like, hilarious stuff, hilarious, that just like, you're like, yeah, it's really funny, but the movie can't handle it. The movie cannot sustain it. So, you know, those things, but never like a total, like, vision, like, you know, change. You know, there was this movie that I kind of did called Scary Movie 5, which was awful.
So the only kind
It turned, it changed the whole bunch of it. I didn't care because I was out the door anyway.
So I'll preface by saying I've seen The Best Man a lot of times and enjoyed paper on it. And in hearing you speak, I'm going to read the question that I wrote down while you were answering, Lisa. The challenging emotions Lance displays are reflective of Black man's collective experience in a journey of becoming aware of the Black female body and essence outside them, outside of Black manhood. The anger, the despair, the vulnerability in realizing that they are beings who have lives outside of serving them is what Lance experiences. What advice do you have for Black men to help them actualize Black women without mandating demurity as a requisite for their humanization?
Wow, that's a heavy question.
That's why you come to Boston.
I don't know what advice I give to men. Like, you know, it's like, you know, like my wife's a therapist, so like, that's probably a question for her. And she probably answered like, you know, very, you know, eruditely. I, you know, I just feel like, this is like what you said, like, you know, we have to see each other's humanity, you know, and you know, what I wanted to do with Lance in particular was like, you know, put a mirror up to some of the hypocrisy that he, you know, he displays, you know, and he's a man of God, and he's like, you know, marriage is sacred, and all, but yeah, I'm slaying it, you know, and like, and like, it's like, you know, your bride-to-be does it once, and you lose your brains. It's like, well, you know, but he's the only character that could have jumped over the broom. It can gone through it, in my estimation. And that was the only character because of his religious beliefs and because he feels so hard, he's so emotional that he could. You know, but to answer your question, I don't have advice. I just try to see each other's humanity and you know, like work. I think it's a process, you know, of learning. You know, as you get older, and you know, it depends how you've been brought up, and, you know, and what you've experienced, you know, about what you feel your relationship with any person is, right? Like, and as you get older, as you get more experience, you can say, oh, you know what? I don't think I really thought that my parents were people until, you know, like much later on in life. You know, like they actually had a life before we came into it. You know? And like, it's certainly reflected now. Like, I got my own kids, and they're like, you know, I'm like, yo, man, I would be rich if I didn't have y'all. You know? So, you know, it's just things like that that like, I think, you know, try to see each other's humanity, and like, you know, you gotta give people grace also to learn, because they've learned a lot of things for a long time, and they're influenced by many things, not just by you know, how they were brought up, but you know, what's particularly now with young people, all these influences in social media and all these, they're bombarded with images and all kinds of like messaging that I'm glad I didn't grow up in this era.
And I think it's absolutely, I mean, I think it's a really difficult time, but I think it's also interesting to see your growth and the growth of the women characters as we move through the Best Man holiday, and then in the final chapters that the women, you know, came into their own and were like, you know, hey, like, I want to take a break.
Yeah, but here's the thing, it's like, you know, it's funny, I never considered, even though like I was, you know, I wanted to make the women as full as possible, I didn't consider it a movie for women.
Right. Oh.
I swear to you, like I was like, I'm making this for dudes, right? Like I'm making this, you know, to represent the brothers, and like, and then I remember when we were doing the undergraduate press kit, and they were all actually asked that question. This is more for women. This is more for men. I thought this was a strange question. It's for the dudes. But it's like, oh, but then like they said, well, you know, it's the wedding, and it's the romance, and I think at heart I am a romantic, and so like it's just been told was told from a male perspective. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then like, you know, your actresses start to say, hey, I need a little bit more, blah blah blah. You know, like okay, and I want to wear my hair in the bob. I was like, I don't know what a bob is. You know? So you know, I learned a lot about black women's hair.
And black men.
But still not enough.
All in that case.
How you doing? This has been amazing. I've enjoyed each segment we talked about. But I need some advice on the history. So as a stand songwriter and a published author, where do I start with my script writing?
Where do you start?
And where are my mentors? I'm not the 17-year-old writer, so where are the mentors?
I think, look, you know, my son right now, like, he decided he wanted to jump into screenwriting. And I'm going to tell you what I told him. It's like, it is not, there's no necessarily conventional way. Writers have to just write. You have to write. You have to study movies. You have to study structure, whether that's on television or if it's on in the movies. You can't just watch movies anymore to just say, oh, I enjoy them. See what the inciting incident is. You see, like all those things, in the 3-act structure, the second act build, and then the end of second act crisis, and the rush to the end of the 3rd act. I'm not, you know, describing everything that needs to happen in movies, but there's a reason in the subtext of why these things, the movies that follow that structure have been successful. And you have to just write. You know, there's no way to like get into the industry other than to just write. You gotta find the thing you want to say, and then just keep keep at it.
I think we have time for one more question.
If you had one magic wish and you could change anything about the industry, what would it be?
Just one. You only have one. Just one. This might take a while.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that I wish there wasn't such pressure to make money, right? But at the same time, I don't want to see everybody's, inner demons or whatever either, I don't know. It's there's a lot of where movies are right now is really tough. What constitutes a theatrical release? No one knows right now. It's really, really tough for those of us who really wanted to, come in the industry to make movies. And what was, supposed to be on a giant screen like this. So I don't really have a thing. I try to even think about things like that. I'm just if it's morphing this way, I'll adjust. You know what I mean? And fortunately, I think I've got my finger on the pulse of what is needed. But I'm also constantly learning, because it's ever evolving, it's ever changing.
And I think over the course of since when you made Best Man, and I don't know what barriers or problems that you had getting it in theaters, and especially during that time, but I do think that it's evolved in a good way for filmmakers of color, for more distribution channels, but more appetite for these stories and not just the urban drama stories.
Yeah.
They're important, as we said, but I think that now, there's a breadth of work out there.
Yes, no, I would agree with that. And, I'm happy to be, part of the industry and, a part of some of the movies and television that have, changed the industry. So I'm extremely gratified and able to do that. And what I always think was much better. I think what I tell people all the time is Best Man was the right script at the right time. If Best Man had been written 3 years earlier, it may not have been, gotten the independent it did. Because Waiting to Exhale and Soul Food it made money. In fact, when being strategic, when I heard about Soul Food coming out, and it was starring Vanessa Williams and Vivica Fox and Neil Long and being produced by
Michael H.
Yeah, but Michael Beach was a household name,
He's a Boston man.
He's our
Boston
But my point is, that I thought this movie that was about a family on the south side of Chicago, it had nothing to do with drugs or guns or violence or anything, would do well. And I was like, if it does well, let me looking for the next Soul Food. And the Best Man is not the next Soul Food, but its success allowed studio executives to say, And my executive at the time was looking for a black romantic comedy, and he read it. He's a white man from Alabama, and he was like, I think these people are just like me. They just happen to be black. And so that was the whole thing. That's been my whole mission to normalize black life in America.
And on that note, drop the mic. Malcolm D. Lee, thank you so much.